Welcome to the May 21st, 2019 Board of Commissioner meetings. Please silence your cell phones, your pagers, and other electronic communication devices. If you need an agenda, they're at the back of the room here on the bookcases. We also are now utilizing a speaker request form. If you would like to speak on an item, please complete a speaker request form located in the bookshelves in the back of the chambers and return it to Commission Office Manager Holly Hennies, located on the lower right side of the dais. Holly, you want to raise your hand? Thank you, Ms. Holly. First, we'll have moment of silent reflection and pledge of allegiance led by Ms. Holly Hennies today, please.
Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. First, we'll have review and approval of the agenda, please.
So move.
Moved by Drews,
Second?
second by DeSanto. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Ms. Holly, please.
Good morning, Commissioners. Holly Hennies, Commission Office Manager. For public notice, the Board of Commissioners uses a consent agenda to act on non-controversial and routine items. The consent agenda is acted upon by one motion and vote of the board. Items may be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda at the request of a board member or a citizen. Today's consent agenda contains the following items: approval of the minutes from the regular meeting of May 7th, 2019. Approval of the minutes from the special meeting of May 10th, 2019. Number 7 is approval of and it's supposed to be malt beverage license renewals per SDCL 35-2-1.2 as presented by the auditor. Number 8 is to acknowledge the notice of intent to conduct a bingo and a raffle from the Rochford Community Hall. Number 9 is to acknowledge the notice of intent to conduct a raffle from the Rochford Rural Fire Association. Number 11 is to acknowledge the notice of intent to conduct a raffle for the Performing Arts Center of Rapid City. And number 11 is to recognize and thank the volunteers for the month of April 2019. And Commissioners, I respectfully request that we pull number 6, please.
Poll number 6, Ms. Holly. Okay. At this time, do we have anybody from the public who wish to remove any items from the consent agenda 5 through 11? If not, do we have any commissioners that would like, or staff that would like to pull any items 5 through 11 on the consent agenda?
Madam Chair, item
Commissioner LaCroix,
11.
number 11. Any others? Not, can we have a motion to approve number 5, 7, 8, 9, and 10?
So moved.
So moved by DeSanto,
Second.
second by Drews. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Number 6, please, Ms. Holly.
Commissioners, on the minutes from the May 10th special meeting, I caused some confusion and had a wrong condition changed that you guys added a friendly amendment to exclude the hauling operations for the week of the Sturgis Motorcycle Rally. So in the minutes under 507B, we need to change condition number 11 to condition number 13.
So, Ms. Holly, can you tell us the process and procedure for that?
We just want to acknowledge that change in the minutes, that it should be condition number 13 and not 11.
Okay,
It's
thank you,
just a
Ms. Holly.
simple acknowledgement. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve number 6, please?
Move to approve?
Moved by DeSanto,
Second.
second by LaCroix. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Number 11, Commissioner LaCroix, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just pulled this this is our to recognize and thank our volunteers for the month of 2019. And I think it's important that we recognize that we had close to 80 volunteers for Pennington County. It looks like we had 32, about 47 for the jail volunteers. Search and rescue, we had over 30. And for law enforcement, we had over 9. And the work that they do and the money that they help save our community and the efforts they put in deserve recognition. We also had treasurer's office volunteers, 4 people for those two, and I just want to show our appreciation for that. So,
Thank you, Commissioner Corey. Any other discussion on the volunteers? If not,
To approve
a
number
motion.
11.
Motion by DeSanto to approve number 11.
second.
Second by LaCroy. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Next, we're on the regular agenda items. Again, if you'd like to speak on any items 12 through 19, please fill out a speaker request. Ms. Holly, number 12.
Commissioners, Greg Barnier called. He's running a little bit late this morning, so I'd ask that you table number 12 until he gets here, and we can move forward with the presentation from Ms. Frederick.
Move to table.
Move
Second.
to table by Drews, second by
DeSanto.
DeSanto. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Number 13, Governor's Office of Economic Development presentation, Ms. Lori Frederick.
Morning.
Good morning.
Morning, Ms. Lori.
Thank you for having me here.
Thanks for coming today, Ms. Lori.
My name is Lori Frederick. I am with the Governor's Office of Economic Development, and I am a community development representative for the western portion of the state. Thank you so much for having us here. I do have some colleagues in the room. John Austin, who is our Business Development Director, and Haley Beeler and Hannah Downs, who are all business development representatives for the area.
Thank you for coming today.
Thank you. So I'm going to, a little bit about what we're going to do is I'm just going to be a brief overview of what GOED does, and then we're going to talk about the tax and use, the sales and use tax rebate for the livestock development program. So a little bit about what we do, our mission. We help businesses create good paying jobs with benefits. And the key with that is we help businesses. We don't create those jobs. We don't do that. We help the businesses do that. We enhance the tax base through that efforts, and we try to improve the quality of life for all South Dakotans, which is a very encompassing type statement, but that's essentially in short statements is what we're trying to accomplish. Our office structure, I'll give you a little bit of background. Community development, which is what I work with, is we have 3 community development individuals across the state. I'm in the western part of the state. I have 2 counterparts, one in the northeast, the other in the southeast. What we look at doing is working with the communities, the economic development organizations, county levels, and helping as they assist to go forward in their next level of economic development. We provide training and we provide resources. The business development team that you just met, their role is to actually work directly with the businesses throughout the state. So one of the things I'd like to point out regarding the business development team is a lot of times we hear about all of the businesses that are coming in from out of state into the state. But in reality, most of our work in that area is with existing businesses within the state and expansion. So about 70% of our programs are used for existing businesses within the state. We hear a lot about the other ones that come in, but we really do have a very strong effort of working with our existing businesses throughout. And then we do have our marketing. Marketing team is actually looking at marketing the state outside, but also marketing within the state so that people understand what we're trying to do. Our finance team, which helps oversee they do oversee all of our programs. And then we have our administration, which obviously is our operations. So we'll get into, agriculture, as we all know, has a huge impact on the South Dakota economy. This has included a lot of types of agriculture. GOED has always focused on agriculture, and Governor Kristi Noem has shown her commitment to the growth of agriculture, and through that is one of the things she has done is having the business development reps from the Department of Ag join our team. And so Haley is one of those individuals who was with the Department of Ag, is now with GOED, and we are very committed to the growth of this important industry. So with that, we have looked at this sales and use tax rebate programs. These are 2 existing programs that we have been using, the Reinvestment Payment Program and the South Dakota Jobs Program. They were created in 2013. They primarily have been utilized in industries such as manufacturing, wind energy, those types of things. through these programs, we are able to provide some rebates in the sales and use tax. And I'm going to give you an example how we've used these in manufacturing. So say a $10 million project has come in for new manufacturing equipment. The manufacturer pays that sales and use tax on the project. Once that project was completed, the manufacturer could receive a portion of that sales tax that was paid. Okay? That was, or they could actually assign that sales tax to another entity if they desired. So what we're looking at with the livestock development program is that these programs can be used for industries that we designate by GOED as targeted industries, and that includes livestock development. So what would qualify, obviously all of these that are listed, the project will qualify if it requires a new county conditional use permit. Okay? If it requires a new permit, and if it adds livestock to the state. So those are basically the two criteria for the projects.
Lori, can I interrupt you?
Sure.
What qualifies for livestock? Does horses qualify for livestock?
Any livestock anything that would qualify under there would be any livestock to the state.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
explain requires a new conditional use permit, meaning they already have one? No.
That has to be a project that you put forward with this program, has not been approved prior, or has not broke ground. So we'll get it, but one of the key of this is we need to be notified right away if there's a pending project,
Okay, thank you.
so that we can have that as part of our. So it functions in similar fashion as our previous example, only we assign the sales and use tax rebate to the county, and that will be a condition of the program. Once the project is complete, the county receives the sales tax that was paid. Okay, so I'll give you an example here. There again, a $10 million project, and the developer pays sales and use tax on the project. The maximum the state would collect is $450,000, the 4.5%. And they note that some of those items within the project may not be taxable, and that is designated by the Department of Revenue. So we're going to need a few projects to go through before we anticipate what the most of the project costs will be taxable, but we anticipate that they will be. But for our example, we'll be very conservative and estimate that only $5 million is taxable. So it would result in that $225,000 in sales and use tax collected. Once the project is complete, the county would receive that sales and use tax that has been collected. You would receive that $225,000 for that livestock development project. The use of the funds, you're free to use those funds as you see fit. No strings attached. So if it's something that you want to include buying new equipment, fixing roads, funding your economic development office, funding the sheriff's office, whatever you're looking at, those are yours to use as you see fit. How it works, if a project is coming, you hear of a project, please contact the business development representative. Haley's going to be taking the lead on a lot of these in this area, so she would be your point of contact. And I have provided a folder for you that has some other information. It includes her business card in there. What we will do is issue a proposal. The developer completes the application, which is presented to the Board of Economic Development. The company assigns the grant to the county. That is not negotiable. The company then pays sales and use tax to the state and reports periodically to our office. They submit an affidavit upon completion of the project, and upon that completion, the sales and use tax is distributed to the county, and there again, no restriction placed on how the funds are used. So this gives you an idea. This area in dark purple is the area that Haley and I and Hannah cover in western South Dakota. And then this is also the contact information of our business development reps, including John, Haley, and Hannah. So one thing we do want to let you know, the use of these programs does not impinge on the ability of the county to approve or deny projects. You maintain your local control. So if you see a livestock development project that you feel fits in Pennington County, then you can utilize this tool as you see fit. If you don't feel the project fits with what you're looking at doing, then that's your option, your choice. This is simply an opportunity for us to work with you on another level. The use of these programs doesn't change any rules or regulations for the livestock development. So there are no rules, regulations, anything that are changed in order for what is required for these livestock development. You will still follow your existing ordinances, comprehensive plans. The Department of Environment and Natural Resources will still follow all of their existing policies and procedures. Okay, so who does all this? So the developer is responsible for filling out the application, following the process. We will work with everyone involved to answer questions and assist as needed. You as a county have no additional work. There's no paperwork for you to fill out. There's nothing along that line. The only thing we ask is if you know of a project or hear of a project, to please contact us right away. Because if you have done the permitting already, the project will not qualify. So we need to be brought in from the very beginning on this. So just a summary, it's an innovative way to encourage economic development across the state. It does provide a financial benefit to counties that want to utilize this tool. And we're really excited to work with the county commissioners across the state and have this opportunity. Are there any questions specifically that you have regarding we do have some frequently asked questions there. In your packet, there's an updated of this PowerPoint so that if you have any questions. There is no deadline, though the application each month is 15 days prior to the board meeting. So there isn't a specific date, but the application deadlines each month are 15 days prior to the board meeting, which is the second Tuesday of each month. So you would need to submit this, or it would have to go to the next month to be approved.
And I see, Ms. Lori, that the projects must be outside the city limits.
Correct.
Okay. So even if we're qualified in the county like the fairgrounds, that wouldn't, it's in city limits, it wouldn't qualify?
That is how as we are hearing it as right now.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Laura, do you got any examples of projects that would have met this criteria?
Do we have
Existing ones?
existing projects?
Existing or pending?
Yeah, there's several pending.
Sir, come on, sir, sir,
John?
come on up, sir.
And are they all ag-related?
Yes, they are.
Okay. I was thinking about affordable housing, but that probably wouldn't,
Yeah, it
wouldn't
has to
work.
be livestock.
Okay.
Okay, so it's a livestock.
Program we've always had in place, and like Lori said, we've used it with wind farms, used it with other projects, but livestock development is a target industry within the state, so we've applied it to that where resources can come back to the county.
So examples of livestock development,
Could be
like,
dairy.
like a dairy
Like
farm?
a dairy growth
Okay.
over on the eastern quarter anyways of the state.
Okay.
Certainly hog lots, feedlots, any of those types of things, turkeys, chickens. We see that more in the central part of the state, but certainly all those are factors
Okay.
that would qualify.
Ron, do you have a follow-up?
No, I appreciate the response, though.
Okay,
So, Madam Chair,
or DeSanto?
so we recently had a project come into town, and I don't know if it's really a income-producing project, but it was a llama ranch. That's livestock, 60 new llamas.
So any of those projects that might not be what we call traditional, we encourage you to reach out to our office and to, because we will be reevaluating some of these that are a little different on a individual basis.
Too late now, but,
But yeah,
I mean, I'm
They might
thinking
be-
about
they
it
might
because if
build.
something like that happened, like, well, for example, the Raptor Center, would that have? That's not livestock. Raptor wouldn't be considered livestock.
yeah, it's not like, I don't think that's considered livestock, but
Gotcha.
Thinking dairy, thinking hogs, thinking feedlots, thinking turkeys, thinking chickens, in general, will cover probably 95%. Now, are there other things? I'd love to be specific there, but as I say that,
Right.
would cover most of the waterfront.
Nice.
Buffaloes.
Commissioner Drews, please.
Lori, I presume that you are also work with Black Hills Council of Local Governments?
yes,
Okay,
we are,
thank you.
work very closely with them.
No, Madam Chair.
Commissioner
The only
LaGre?
thing that come to my mind is the raising of the buffalo. That might be,
Buffalo.
yeah.
Correct.
Certainly,
Yeah.
for us
that would be included.
in our area.
Yes.
Like Pace Law, that area? Or do you work with trust groups as well that, like we have Pace Law, it's a trust entity from the 5 tribes. Do they work with building up livestock with buffalo and stuff with the trust funds or the trust
If
funds?
they would be qualified for paying that sales and use tax, that's, that's the,
They
whether the
probably don't.
project, that's.
You're right, Miss Lori.
Sure.
Yes, ma'am. I should have listened better.
That's the key. If there's
That's the
tax that's
key,
being paid.
then that's,
yeah,
Yes, sir.
that would be the key.
That's your, yeah,
Yeah.
sorry.
no, it's okay. So,
Thank you.
Thanks.
any other questions?
Any other questions? Do you have any follow-up, Miss Lori?
If you have any questions, please reach our office and contact us. We'd be happy to, and if a special project may come up that you think might fit into this, don't hesitate to contact us.
Thank you. And I'd like to thank Commissioner Drews for bringing you here. This information is very pertinent for us to move forward in some of our projects in Pennington County, and it's good for the public to hear this. So Commissioner Drews, thank you for asking economic development from the state to come here and give us some information on what they do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lori.
Thank you, Lori.
Thank you.
Next, number,
Commissioners, Greg is here. If you would like to take number 12 off the table, please.
okay, do we have a motion to take the number 12 off the table?
So move.
Second.
Moved by Ross Connect, second by Drews. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, motion carries. Next, we'll have Pennington County Board of Mental Illness appointments, Mr. Greg Barnier. I know
Morning,
Greg.
Madam Chair. Morning, Commissioners.
Hi, Greg.
You have the packet. I'm not quite sure what Holly may have changed, but in the letter I submitted, I was asking about appointment of 2 new board members and reappointment initially of 2 people, but the request this morning is simply to appoint 2 new and reappoint 1 individual, Ms. Patricia Myers. So that's for housekeeping. I'd be glad to respond to questions. I know you did get some information. This is a pretty straightforward appointment generally, but several of you are new on the commission since the last time I was in asking for appointments, so I'd be glad to respond if you have questions about how the activities of the board or how often the hearings are held or things of that nature.
So, Mr. Barnier, if you could explain the appointment of the 3 people that are on this, 2, can you tell us the 2 that are being newly appointed
yes.
and the one that is, yes?
To my right, I have Nicole Heenan and Lisa Allison. These are the 2 who've submitted the application for appointment. Under state law,
Okay.
an individual can be appointed for 2 3-year terms. They're seeking appointment to the first of a 3-year term.
Okay, and Patricia Myers just
She's
reappointed.
currently appointed, was appointed 3 years ago, wants to continue to serve, and so that's the request for reappointment for her.
Thank you. Do the applicants, Elizabeth or Nicole, would like to speak? Or
Well, they
just-
didn't indicate any interest to me that they wanted to talk.
Well,
but
just
Holly-
to be polite, in just in case. Okay,
Madam Chair,
Commissioner LaCroix, please.
could you give us a little brief of what the board does and why the qualifications are so high for?
These, what the board does is the board reviews petitions for emergency commitment of an individual either with a mental illness or in very limited or not very often, it also considers commitment for someone with a developmental disability. The application process that Holly really oversees through the commission office tries to draw in individuals who have some knowledge and some familiarity with folks who struggle with those limitations. And then we have does that respond to your question or not
Yeah,
quite?
I was just trying to educate people through YouTube and our audience of what the board does and how the process works.
Sure. This is a circumstance where if you have a friend or someone in your family who has a family member that becomes distraught and becomes suicidal, this board would consider the petitions for that sort of an individual where there's a request that they be provided some emergency treatment 2 days, 3 days, 5 days, to get them over the hump, so to speak, with the crisis that they're experiencing. What the board does is the board considers the evidence to decide if they really need the involuntary hospitalization. And I guess that's, it's a responsibility that the legislature has established for some years. This was done strictly in the court system, and then 20-some years ago, it was moved to having an attorney appointed to chair the board rather than a magistrate judge. So,
Just to follow up, Madam Chair, is, the reason why I ask that is because it's a tough job, and I really value the people who decided that they wanted to put the application in and be a part of this board, because it's not an easy one. It's not, mental health in our community is a tough situation, and emergency committals, involuntary committals are a very serious matter. I mean, you're taking someone who's against their will pretty much till something happens. And so I just wanted to recognize that's probably why you have such high criteria for it. And I really appreciate you guys stepping up and wanting to serve on this board, because it's a tough one to do.
thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Craig. Commissioner Drews, please.
Thank you. And Nicole is probably going to shoot me for this maybe later on, but I got to know Nicole pretty well during the course of this past year, and learned of her interest while we were out campaigning relative to mental disease is one of her primary concerns. And so I did encourage her to be applying for this. Quite frankly, at the time, Nicole, I didn't realize the time commitment that it required in order to do this. So I appreciate all of you, Elizabeth and Nicole and Greg, for the time that you put in on this effort on our behalf. So this is a major time commitment for each of you. So thank you.
So, Mr. Barnier, how long have you been on this board?
Myself,
Yep.
close to 24 years,
And do you know how long Patricia Myers has been on the board?
3.
Okay. Thank you for your time and your commitment. I know Mr. Barnier as well, and a very good man, and you couldn't have a better leader of this group. But
I'll tell my wife you said that.
Madam Chair?
But give me just a sec, Mr. Drews. Thank you, sir. But thank you, Allison, Elizabeth Allison, and Nicole Heenan, and Patricia Meyer for wanting to serve with Greg. Like I said, good leader, and what you have to offer, because I know Miss Allison is going to be a positive for this committee. So, Commissioner Drews, please.
I would make a motion to appoint Elizabeth Allison, Nicole Heenan, and Patricia Myers to the Board of Mental Illness for a term of 3 years, effective 2019 through 2022.
Thank you,
Second
Mr.
that.
Drews. There's been a motion by Commissioner Drews and a second by Commissioner Ross Connect. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, motion carries. Thank you, folks, very much.
Thank you, folks.
Congratulations.
Thank you, ladies.
Number 14 is items from auditor, City Mueller. 14A, please. Resolution relating to lease purchase of county buildings, authorizing the execution and delivery of a lease purchase agreement, and approving and authorizing execution of related documents, and authorizing certificates of participation. Get all that?
Thank you, Madam Chair, for
Thank
reading
you,
all
Ms.
of that
Cindy.
for me. I'm Cindy Moeller, Pennington County Auditor. I've brought with me Tom Grimman from Doherty and Company, and he is going to actually explain what that resolution will do for us.
Thank you, Ms. Cindy.
Thank you. Again, Tom Grimman from Doherty and Company. And thanks for having me here today.
Thank you.
Holly's passing out some information that I brought along. Didn't know you had PowerPoint here. I could have done that, but next time I'll remember that. Julie's kind of handled this in the past, so actually I went to the wrong building because the last time I had to come here, you guys were just financing part of this. This is what we're refinancing. You guys are just getting ready to build this building with these bonds. Now, if some of you might remember being in the general public at that time, I don't think anyone was here back in 2010, 2009 when we did this financing originally, but we did it in a series of bonds. At that time, we were in the middle of the financial crisis, and they had something called the ARA Act. That's a little redundant because the A in ARA actually stands for ACT, but it sounds weird if I just say ARA. So the ARA Act. And there was some types of financing mechanisms that were out there, and there was something called Build America bonds, BAB bonds, and then there was bonds that were called Recovery Zone Economic bonds, which we used a piece of both of those, the Build America bonds and what we called the RZ bonds, the Recovery Zone bonds. The Build America bonds, they were sold on a taxable basis, and you received 35% of that tax back, that interest expense back from the federal government on an annual basis. The RZ bonds, which was a little bit different section, and not as much money was given in that area, those were 45% of the federal money came back to you at that time. So we did like 3 different series of bonds. It made sense that we did a tax exempt series of bonds. We did a BAB series of bonds there in the middle, and then we used up all of your allocation for the RZ bonds, which was about $8 million back in 2010. That program only existed in 9 and 10, and then it went away. So we're here today. We've already refinanced a couple years ago in 2017. We refinanced your Build America bonds back in 2017. The tax exempt piece of this is already paid off. That ran in the earlier years. And then the RZ bonds ran towards the end of the term. So you had a 30-year financing where in the beginning part of this, it was tax exempt. In the middle, we had Build America bonds. We weren't limited to the amount we could do there. And then we had RZ bonds in the latter half of the maturity schedule, and that's what we're looking at refinancing. So that's what we have here today. I gave you a little yield curve that goes back to 2007, before the financial crisis. You can kind of see where interest rates were at that time, and then where we're at right now. And you can see in 2013, thereabouts to the end of 2012, we hit a 65-year low in interest rates at that bottom level. If I had a chart that went back far enough, you could see that you have to go back to the 1960s, 1950s to get a number that was that low. So you can see we actually went down a little bit more than that in 2016. That was more due to a crisis in the world, what was going on in Greece, than anything else. But you can see where interest rates are at today. Let me towards the end of that graph. So you can see that we're at a relatively good point, a low point in interest rates. So then that made me think, well, what about these RZ bonds? Is it time maybe to look at refinancing them at this time? So that's why I'm here. We ran some numbers on the bonds, and you can see the schedules that I gave you are they really build from the bottom up, or from the back up. But usually everybody always asks, well, how much are we going to save? So years ago, I just redid the schedules, and we just put the savings right up front, so you can see what the savings are right up front. And that's about a little over $700,000, maybe a little bit more than that. Interest rates have gotten a little better. I haven't updated the numbers because these were the original numbers I showed Cindy, but we're in that range right now is what we're looking at saving if we did a refinancing of those bonds.
Nice.
So with that being said, I can step through every page of this, and I can build it for you if you'd like to understand how it all works, or I can take questions about it, and we can go from there.
Madam Chair.
Let's do questions. Commissioner DeSanto.
This savings is the savings through the payoff of 2040, correct?
That is correct.
And is it also taking into consideration the cost of refinance?
Yes.
It is.
So this is net of all the costs. Yes, very good question. I get that all the time, and over 25 years, I still forget to say that. But yes, you're right. Very good question. This does include all the costs that goes into the refinancing of this.
Very good.
You can see, now there is a little nuance to this. As you can see, basically, there's that very first we're looking at closing, or tentatively closing September 1, just to throw a number out there to run the numbers. And you can see there's, on that page 1, you can see there's a large negative savings. And what I've done there is, one of the nuances to these is that normally you put the money into an escrow and you can earn interest on that escrow until the bonds can be called. There's a nuance to the RZ bonds where we can't do that. We have to, what they call gross fund, fully fund the escrow. So you don't get credit for that interest earnings, but you can still invest it. You don't get credit for that interest earnings in the escrow, but you still get, you'll still receive that interest as debt service payments back to the fund. So that's where you can see under this PCF column, you can see this, that's actually the interest that's being earned on that escrow as it's paying off. And that comes back as debt service payments on this. But to do that, you have to upfront the cost of that, basically what your investment would be. So that's where that 253,000 comes from. And again, that's not locked yet, but that's an indication. Now, you have in your budget right now basically a $289,000 payment budgeted for December 1. So what we're proposing is that payment gets moved up to September. Isn't quite 289, it's only 253. But I wanted to make sure to point that out, that we are netting that out. The money that you're going to put into this, meaning that we don't take cash that you're putting into this project and then showing that as savings on top of it. If I did that, I'd have over $1 million in savings. I just want you to know that we're netting out all that cash that you would be putting into this project. And it doesn't change your budget at all. It just kind of moves up the payment period a few months.
Nice.
On page 1, your net present value cash flow savings at 3.277%. How did we arrive at the 3.277?
Which number are you at now? I see 6%.
Yeah, I see 6%.
6% PV.
Well, I'm looking at the
Page 1.
page 1, the PV analysis. I'm going down to the 5th line. It says net PV cash flow savings at 3.277.
You give us a different sheet, huh?
Well, I hope not.
I highlighted it.
The cash flow savings.
You mean over here?
Where I've highlighted percent.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I see the top line.
All right. I see what you're looking at here. So basically what that's doing, to do a discount or a present value savings, you have to have a starting point. You have to have an interest rate. So what the program does is it takes what they call your AIC. If you'd said that, I would have clued in a little quicker. So as they're present valuing this back at your AIC. AIC is your all-inclusive cost. So with this run, what your all-inclusive cost interest rate is on these bonds is that 3% number. So they're using that number to present value the cash flows back. You could use a little finance that as that number goes down, you show greater savings, and as that number goes up, you show lesser savings. Because the discount becomes higher. But in this case, usually it's just what's done in the industry is it's present valued back at the all-inclusive cost yield on the bonds. And if you go to the next page, you can see there's a couple different yields down there in the yield statistics on page 2. There's what they call the NIC, the net interest cost yield, the true interest cost yield, the bond yield, which doesn't include any cost, it's just what the yield is on the bond. Some people use that because it tends to be lower. And then you can use the all-inclusive cost, which is the 327. Did that answer your question?
Follow up, sir?
The results of the discounted cash flow analysis, is that subject to change with the economic climate over the next 25, 30 years?
Yeah, that'll definitely fluctuate, but once you do a refinancing, you're locked, just like you were in 2010, you're locked into that savings or those interest rates. Your rates won't fluctuate anymore after that.
Okay.
Now, I will add that, if you do act and we start down this road, there's no cost to the county. Say we get down there, usually it takes about 60 days to get everything kind of put together and all the documents done. There's no cost to the county if all of a sudden interest rates go back up. And then if they do go up, we'll run those numbers and we'll show them to Cindy, and Cindy can bring them to you. And, you don't need to make a definitive number today, but if they do go up, obviously if they go up significantly, you probably don't want to do it. You might want to wait. But we're not here to force you to do the refinancing. It's if this is a good number and it looks really good now, I'm hoping that it's going to continue forward because there's no nobody's out there really predicting interest rates are going to change a lot.
Thank
here.
you, Mr. Grimmon.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner DeSanto?
the likelihood that interest rates will go down is pretty slim, but if they did, can we take advantage of that?
Once you lock them in, you can't. I mean, we would have an additional call date on this.
Sure.
So that in 5 or 6 years, depending upon where the call date is, once they're sold, you can come back in and refinance them at that time too. Again, you can do as many current, what they call current refinancings, and a current refinancing is when you reach the call date, or 90 days prior to. You can do as many of those as you want throughout the life of the bond. So you could come back in and save money again. As you pointed out, though, the one reason I gave you the chart is to kind of show you, historically, we're at very low interest rates right now. So your chances of interest rates going down is more of a gamble than a certainty. And your chances of interest rates going back up to where I would say they normally should be, which is probably 100 basis points, about 1% higher than they are right now on a 30-year basis, is greater than the contrary.
Thank you, sir. Any other discussion?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner LaCroy?
So bottom line, the interest rate that you're gonna be able to get is the 3.2,
3.27.
and
Yep.
we're at what right now? 6.85 for where we're at right now.
Well, right now you're technically at 7.3%.
7.3.
Right. But you're receiving 42% of that interest back. I didn't run the math on this. So
Madam Chair.
7.3 point.
Commissioner DeSanto after Lloyd, you're next, sir.
So you're at about 4.8%. Your tax exempt equivalent is about 4.8%. So you're going from about 4.8% down to 3.27. So that's where that's where your savings is within that.
Commissioner LaCroy, do you have a follow-up?
Nope, that's what I wanted to know.
Sorry, Mr. Grimmon. You know your stuff. Commissioner DeSanto?
Well, I was going to move to approve the resolution, but we haven't had any public comment yet, so I guess we'll wait on that.
Do we have anybody in the public that would like to speak on this item? Usually we fill out speaker requests, but we do let you speak anyway if you have something to add to this. So if not, motion, please.
I would move to approve the resolution.
Moved by DeSanto, second by Roskinick. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Grimmond. Good information, sir.
Thanks.
Item B, Miss Cindy?
Before you have a new retail on-off sale malt beverage and South Dakota farm license for Voorhees Hospitality.
We have a motion.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Roskinick,
Second.
second by Drews. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Miss Cindy. Item C, general fund law enforcement budget supplement in the amount of $56,185, and that's the drone supplement board. Do we have a motion or discussion?
Move for approval.
Second.
Moved by LaCroy, second by Roskinick. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, motion carries.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. Items from Sheriff Kevin Tome, Addiction Treatment Services Staff Request, 10 FTEs.
Morning, Kevin Tone, Pennington County Sheriff, and I forward you a memo that went with your packet regarding our treatment services at the care campus. As you know, the second floor is being completed. We'll have 64 treatment beds, increasing our capacity significantly from the 28 we have at La Crosse Street currently. And to provide the services, we need 10 additional FTEs. Those FTEs are funded 100% by revenues we generate from state treatment dollars. And the question I always get is what happens to the FTEs if the dollars go away and the FTEs go away. So in this case, in the meantime, we obviously have a meth crisis and other drug addiction issues in our community. So we should take advantage of the treatment dollars and deliver as many services as we can in the community. So stand for any questions you may have.
Do we have a motion or discussion?
Move for approval.
Moved by LaCroy,
Second.
second by DeSanto. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Item B, sir.
This is the kitchen and laundry equipment bid authorization, again, is outlined in the memo to the expansion, or I should say the remodels going on at the jail currently, is to update the laundry and kitchen. As you know, it was originally sized for the one tower to feed about 250, 300 people. Today we're feeding 750, 800. This will actually be sized to feed 1,200 people someday if it's ever needed, because we do feed our satellite facilities out of the jail, the juvenile center, the care campus. And so this will go out to bid, and it's money that we have budgeted, we'll put in our budget each year to pay the lease cost of the laundry and
Thank you,
kitchen
Sheriff
equipment.
Tom. So the motion or discussion is to authorize the sheriff's office to advertise and put out to bid for new kitchen and laundry equipment in conjunction with the jail construction project.
So
Move for
moved.
approval.
Moved by Drews, second by DeSanto. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
Thank you.
Items from Building and Ground Director Mike Cool. Pennington County Care Campus Residential Treatment Furniture Procurement Proposal Contract Award.
Good morning. Mike Cool, Pennington County Buildings and Grounds Director. I was out sick last week. I asked Cindy in our office to draft the memo that's before you. It's probably a little more complicated in the memo than this really is. I'm asking for authorization to purchase $19,891.23 worth of furniture from Dakota Business Center under a current existing contract that was put into place for the first phase of the project. So we're buying the office equipment and tables and chairs from that under the same pricing as that previous project.
Thank you, Mr. Cole. Is there discussion or a motion?
I make a motion that we approve.
Can you read that motion for me, Commissioner Drews, for the public, since it's a pretty big one?
The motion is to award a contract to Dakota Business.
Excuse me, can I simplify this a little bit? Can I ask for authorization to purchase those, and we can sign a contract not to take any more of your time for this. The reason I bring it before you is because of the size of it exceeds that $15,000 limit.
Okay, thank you. So there's a motion by Drews. There's a second?
Yes.
Second by
I'll second.
Ross Connect. The motion was, he was just gonna read the motion for you and then do that, Mike. So he's, okay, I'll just move forward. So there's been a motion by Drews, second by Ross Connect. Any discussion?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner LaCroy.
So Mike, this is,
No.
one comment that you made is this is the first phase. Is there going to be additional furniture purchases? That'd be my question, because I think you budgeted for 90 and this is at 15, so I'm assuming there's going to be.
Let me, I'm probably confusing something within what I've said. The contract that we are purchasing under was the contract that we bought the furniture for for the first phase of the project.
Okay.
We're buying it for that same pricing. The tables and chairs, items that we had included on that project before. So we're using last year's contract to purchase a portion of the furniture for this second phase. We budgeted $90,000 overall for it. We still have bunk beds to buy and some lounge furniture for some lounge areas, essentially, that will also have to be purchased as part of that. And I will bring those back to you as well.
I just wanted clarification because that there's still more.
There's more to come.
Okay,
Yes.
this is just under an older contract that we had.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So there's been a motion and a second. Motion by Drews, second by Ross Connect. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Mr. Cool. Item 17 is items from equalization. Shannon Rittberger. Or his assistant. Your name, sir?
Good morning, Gordon Wendell, Deputy Director of Equalization. We are here for an abatement today for Leroy Hicks, 311 Willow Drive, Box Elder. This property was owner occupied since 1997. The owner occupied was inadvertently removed because the property owner deeded multiple properties using two deeds from personal name to trust in same name. Recording the deeds prompted the office process for a change in ownership. A letter was mailed to the owner requesting that the owner occupied status. No response from the owner, so their owner occupied classification was removed. Equalization request, you grant this abatement.
Thank you. Do we have a motion or discussion, please?
Move to approve.
Moved by DeSanto,
Second.
second by LaCroy. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Thank you,
Thank
Gordon.
you.
Thanks, Gordon.
Number 18, items from Highway Department. 18A is the Trans-Canada Keystone XL Pipeline Haul Road Agreement.
Morning, Commission. Joe Miller, Pennington County Highway. After a long back and forth between Pennington County and Trans-Canada, our state's attorney, Jay Alderman, and Bill for Trans-Canada kind of put the final touches on this, working with Mark and myself, so I want to say thank you to those guys. This is a haul road agreement for 1416 and Elm Springs Road during their pipeline construction, which currently the pipeline and facilities construction and scope is set for 2020, so next year. There's some possible pre-construction stuff this fall. And right now they're not going to use the Box Elder Railroad spur at this time. So this, as you can see in the packet there, the haul road agreement, and then the addendum is kind of where I kind of want to draw your attention there. Elm Springs Road is designated as a special or a light duty traffic only. We put a 30,000 GVWR on that road that allows them to use buses or for hauling their workers back and forth to the pipeline there. And then application of mag chloride to aid in the dust. And then 1416 is just where they would be hauling their pipeline out of if that does work out for them. Currently there's some scheduling conflicts with that. So with that, I will stand for any questions.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Roskinek, please.
Say, Joe, I read that the pre-haul inspection report.
Mm-hmm.
And that was real thorough, and they show the present condition of the road before any hauling will take place. When is it re-inspected after they're done using the haul, and who does that inspection? Is that going to be a third party as well? And then who will make the recommendations on what needs to be, what repairs will need to be if there are repairs needed after that haul?
Did you get all those questions?
I think it's all one question, and
Right.
Basically that it's up to the highway department. It comes back to making sure the superintendent and the highway department are agreeable to the condition that it's left in.
So that re-inspection, is it as thorough as the pre-inspection?
It could be, yes.
They use radar to detect the depth of the gravel?
Probably not to that depth. The highway department doesn't have those tools.
Okay.
But I guess if it's the request of the commission, we could probably request that. And Trans-Canada would be, I would assume, be more than happy to do that.
Thank you, Joe.
Commissioner, did you have any concerns on that you would like that on the request, or you're just asking the question?
Well, I'm just trying to determine, I'm not familiar with that particular road, but they're very thorough on what this road looks like today and all the culverts, and so I just wondered if after this road haul agreement is complete, if that final inspection will be as thorough as the first inspection so that we can determine if there is any repairs needed.
So to my knowledge, the gravel's not going to really go anywhere other than possibly dusting off. So their radar and stuff, the depths of gravel aren't going to change a whole lot. It's relatively the condition that it's left in after they do haul on it. So if the surface looks like it needs work, that's going to be pretty visible, and we would request them to add gravel to it at that time.
So there's no cost to the county to do the final inspection? I mean, that's going to be TransCanada, they'll be responsible for doing that final inspection?
It would be, to my knowledge, it'd be TransCanada and myself or Mark going out and re-inspecting the road together to make sure all conditions are met and that the road is in fact in the condition that it was started in.
Thank you, Joe.
Commissioners, any other discussion?
No.
Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Approval.
Second.
Motion by DeSanto, second by Roskinick for approval. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. On Jim Street information, Commissioner DeSanto, you wanted a continuance on this, sir? Do you have a timeline?
Yes, we'll continue it to the next Board of Commissioners meeting. I was in Spokane, Washington.
That date, please, Ms. Holly?
June 4th.
We have a motion to continue to June 4th.
So
Motion.
moved.
Motion by DeSanto, second by Roskinick. Do we have public discussion on this? Thank you. I know this is going to be continued. You can still speak today, but this is a continuance. Did the person, Jason Wright, still want to speak?
No, that's the next item.
Okay. Sorry, Holly. Thought you were handing me for this
Sorry.
item. Sorry. All right. We have a motion and a second. Did we already say all in favor, say aye? Okay, all in
Aye.
favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Sorry about that.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, sir. Number 19 is Green Valley Sanitation District. Number 19, Jason Reitz, Green Valley Sanitation. Morning, sir. Your name?
Good morning, Jason Reitz. Stand before you, thank you, stand before you to give you some information about the Green Valley District. We are in the eastern part of the county, south of Highway 44, on Anderson Road and the Reservoir Road area. South side would be kind of the South District, so.
Hold on just a sec, sir. Brittany, do you have a map of this area by chance for Green Valley? So we got somewhat of direction of, thank you, Mr. Reitz. Is it Reitz? Did you say?
Reitz.
Reitz,
Yep.
okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Brittany.
You're welcome. That help?
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
Sir?
Back in like 2010, we did a water project in that area, and we were able to secure water for a district. The next phase of that was the sewer system. And so now we are looking and getting all of our stuff ready to go out for bid for a sewer district and a funding package. We've been pursuing this since the completion back in 2010. We've submitted a state water plan, and this water project, or our sewer project, will be on this state water plan in the next meeting of the Board of Natural Resources. Once we get that, then we'll be available for the funding package that will be awarded to us, hopefully. Green Valley Sanitation District is ready to sign an operational agreement with the City of Rapid City so they can allow or handle the sewer waste for us. Once that's all done, that opens up with the South Dakota State DNR for the funding package. Green Valley Sanitation District plans to submit a funding application to DNR prior to the deadline of January 1 of 2020. This application will be heard in March 2020. Assuming the funding package is feasible for us, survey and design will be handled promptly after that. We're hoping to have the plans approved by the fall for possible start of construction fall of 2020. This will allow completion during the summer of 2021, barring a good construction season. The issue at hand here is we have failing septic systems in our area, and I think everybody's fairly well aware of what's going on out there. Hence the reason why we're going after our sewer project. In the intern time between now and when the sewer project gets completed, we are looking at with the high ground waters, our sewer systems, our septic systems, not all of them, but there's some in that area that are not able to be fully functional. Due to the high groundwater and the conventional septic systems are not an option in most cases. And what that means is it's very expensive to put them in. And if we have some failing systems in the meantime, it doesn't to force somebody to pay up to $25,000 for a new system when in a year and a half we're going to be putting in a brand new sewer system in there. So what we're trying to do is decrease the cost to those people out in that area. This will most of that time, and that increase in that cost, usually that's with those mound systems. Mound systems are very expensive. We can't do the conventional systems anymore just with the way the groundwater is. So you have to install those mound systems, and that is very expensive.
So, Mr.
So,
Reitz,
yes.
today you're asking us for a letter. Is that where we're going today?
It's a two-part deal. So yes, the letter will be a letter of recommendation by the Pennington County for us to apply, or when we apply for all those grants,
Yes, sir.
to put in that package that the Pennington County Commissioners, Pennington County is on board with this project too.
And the second part is?
The second part is we need to find an alternative in the intern time for all of this. So what I was talking about was leading up to this. What do we do in the meantime now that they're failing? So their projects or their sewer systems get flagged for inspection. Then it gets inspected and now it's not passing. So what can we do in the meantime so people aren't having to spend that $25,000 and then all of a sudden a year later here comes our sewer project.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner LaCroix.
I was just separating these, and I'd make the motion to approve the letter on behalf of the commission to support the Green Valley Sanitary District to help secure the construction sewer collection system.
Second.
So there's been, the letter for support is LaCroix is the first, Andrews is the second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
And Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
follow up. In my opinion, I was reading through this, and I know you guys got the problems. I would probably direct staff to bring back some options to the commission of what we can do. I think just all of a sudden this coming forward and trying to make a rash decision, I think that's something we need to carefully think about and have our staff research, and then we could discuss that. That would be my suggestion on that.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner DeSanto.
I think that the two options that they have offered us are good options, but I'd like to see if Brittany, BJ come up with any additional options that would, or if they have some comments on the options that you guys have already looked at. Obviously, which would be the less expensive of the two options? I would assume it would probably be the incinerator.
Incinerator would be the cheaper one, yes.
Okay, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Roskinek.
Just how many units are there involved?
That are in that whole area or that are?
If you were to hook up to the sewer system as you want to, how many hookups would there be?
You're looking in probably the 400 home range.
And then what percent do you think right now might be failing?
I would probably have to refer to Brittany on this one. So she has all those accurate numbers.
Okay.
So,
Thank
Board, the motion is if the VOC supports moving forward, motion to direct staff to come back with draft proposals in the appropriate format. We okay with that for a motion? Okay.
That would be my motion.
Motion by DeSanto,
Second.
second by LaCroix. All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed, motion carries. Is that what you were thinking, sir?
Yep.
I thought
As
so.
long as we can get the ball rolling, that's all we want.
There you go.
Thank you, sir.
Balls are
Appreciate
rolling.
it.
Thank you, sir. Next board, We need Board of Adjustment doesn't start till 10:30. Is that okay if we go into executive session for this 25 minutes with the board? Do we have a motion?
Move to go into executive session.
Second.
Motion by Roskinek, second by LaCroy. And that is for contractual pending litigation. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
Now we're on.
Move to come out of executive session.
And a
Second.
motion to come out of executive session by DeSanto, second by Roskinek. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Do we have a motion we need to bring forward?
I'd make a motion to request the Board of Commissioners' signature on the right-of-way acquisition of parcel 13, 15, and 16 in the amount of $2,008.46.
Second.
We have a motion by LaCroy, second by Drews. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
I'd make a motion to request the Board of Commissioners' signature on the right-of-way acquisition for the parcels number 35, 37, 38, 39, 55, and 56 in the amount of $24,300.
Second?
We have a motion by LaCroy, second by DeSanto. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Board. Next, we're in Board of Adjustment. PJ, please.
Ma'am, motion to
Move to go into Board of Adjustment.
Second.
And a motion by DeSanto, second by LaCroy to go into Board of Adjustment. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, motion carries, please.
Thank you, ma'am. PJ Conover, Director Planning Department. The only item on the Board of Adjustment is item A, which is a variance request from Patrick and Marlene Shealy. It is to reduce the front yard setback from 25 feet to 5 feet in order to bring an existing shop into compliance. During the review of this request and other building permits, we noticed that an existing shop that was permitted in 2016 that was supposed to be 25 feet from the property line actually encroaches 5 feet into the public right-of-way. So the staff's recommendation is to continue variance 1903 until such a time that the applicant or owner addresses the encroachment of the existing shop into the public right-of-way.
Is there a move
Be
to
my
continue?
motion.
Moved by DeSanto,
Second.
second by LaCroy. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Motion to come out of Board of Adjustment, please.
So
So
moved.
moved.
Moved by DeSanto, second by Drews. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Next is consent agenda, please.
Yes, ma'am. The Board of Commissioners uses a consent agenda to act on non-controversial and routine planning and zoning items quickly. The consent agenda is acted upon by one motion and vote of the board, and items may be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda at the request of a board member or a citizen. The consent agenda from Planning and Zoning contains the following items. Item B is second reading of rezone 1904 and comprehensive plan amendment 1904 for Patrick Foley, and approval has been recommended. Item C is second reading of rezone 1902 and comprehensive plan amendment 1902 for Borglum Historic Center Incorporated. Dwayne Pencratz is the owner, Ken Nash is the agent, and approval has been recommended.
Okay, Board, do we have a motion? We do have number C that needs to be pulled because we have speaker requests. Do we have a motion for item B?
So moved.
Moved by DeSanto,
To approve.
Second.
second by LaCroy to approve item B. Is there anybody in the public would like to talk about item 20B? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, item C, we'll have 3 minutes for each speaker since we have heard the speakers before. So do we have a timer ready, Ms. Holly? So at this time, we have 4 speakers. You get 3 minutes per speaker, or you can yield your time to one of the other speakers if you like to add on more time for that person. If that's, actually, we have 4. So if anybody would like to yield their time to another person, just say it when you come up. Okay? First is Lon Buhner. So Holly, will you tell them, the people speaking today, how that works for the 3 minutes, how our timer works, please?
Yep, in front of the Board of Commissioners, you'll see a little black box in front of Commissioner Roskinek. When that light turns green, you'll have the start of your 3 minutes. When it turns yellow, you have 30 seconds remaining, and we ask that you wrap up your comments. And when it turns red, your 3 minutes is up.
Thank you. And your name, sir?
Go ahead, sir.
What's your name, sir?
Ron Buter.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Madam Commissioner,
Yes, sir.
my name is Brian Johnson. I had my request in there. I'd like to yield my time to Lon Buhner.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Thank you, Brian.
Go ahead, sir.
What I was going to present to you was a mass balance calculation that people probably used in the past to determine that this should be a low-density residential area. And I will point out that all the information I was going to present to you today was brand-new information, has not been presented by the Planning and Development Group, and has not been presented here. But in the interest of 3 minutes.
Sir, you get 6 minutes.
Okay, in the interest of my time.
Well, sir, just, hold on just a sec. Pull your speaker closer to you so we can hear you, sir.
Can I get my seconds back that I just lost, please?
Yep.
Thank you. This is a map that I've put together with the information on our nitrate levels in the area from tests for our 2 wells of 7.8 parts per million, and the EPA limit is 10 parts per million, and our other shared well of 6 parts per million. And I've also put on here the results toward the bottom of 6 parts per million for the Golden Hills subdivision. This is a public water system that serves about 20 homes. 1.2 miles to the east of this subject property, you can see a 1.26 parts per million for the Straddle Rim Estates. That also is a public water system. Both those public water systems are tested with a certified operator, certified by the state, and the results are from an independent test. So what you see is in our area and in the area of the subject property, we have a significant nitrate level issue. What's surprising to me is that our nitrate level in our subdivision is identical to the nitrate level in the adjoining subdivision. This tells me that we have a regional issue associated with our nitrates. You take the locations of those wells and you put them on an overlay of the Rockerville quadrangle geology surface, and what you see are the wells that have the high nitrate levels are all located west of that geologic unconformity that has been discussed in the past. The well to the east, which has 73 homes, tremendous amount of septic, in addition to commercial there, a very low test. So geology does make a big difference. That's why, in my opinion, this level, when they put together the comprehensive plan in 2003, was identified as an area that should be low-density residential. That's why I believe that when they zoned our area in 1995, they zoned it low-density residential. Because the only variables you can deal with are the septic that you have going in. I did some research with regard to the septic systems in the area, and I will point out in this area of a relatively high nitrate level, in the middle of it you have a big depository of septic from the existing commercial and highway service properties. You have the gas light that has a DNR approved volume of 4160, and these approved volumes came from the planning and zoning staff. You have in the main street of Rockerville 400 gallons per minute that's approved. You have in what we call the Green Monster on the other side of 16, 3,000 gallons that are approved. Those 3,000 gallons were approved when this was an assisted home facility. When you take a look at the required flow capacity from the ordinances from Pennington County as well as the state, based on occupancy that they have identified, I come up with flow capacity requirements of the Main Street property of 6,800 gallons compared to the 400. I come up with a flow capacity calculation of 7,560 for the Green Monster compared to the 3,000. So what you see is there's over 10,000 gallons a day that they are required to have in their system that is not there. You look at the average for the commercial highway service, you see 7,000 gallons per 3 acres. You compare that with what you have with a 4-bedroom home and low-density residential of 480. You can see that the issue we have in our area is the septic volume that's entering the ground from the commercial and highway service areas. The advertised maximum capacity that I determined was 122 guests for the Main Street property, 126 guests for Pine Haven, but I'm excluding 2 rooms that I couldn't find in the Pine Haven property. This is an overview of the
what I call the green monster, you can see the location of the two huge mound systems that are just to the north or on the upper part of that slide from here. The thing I'd like to point out here, that system is legal, but again, it's sized for 3,000 gallons, but they're advertising that they need a capacity of over 7,000 gallons. The thing I'd like to point out is that mound system is 10 feet away from the boundary of that property owner to the left. That property owner is not on the shared well, is required to have their own well. And if that well gets high in nitrates, what option do they have? I will tell you this, the issue is not the 400 gallons or 200 gallons that they're actually using in that home. It's the 7,000 gallons potentially it's going to be placed in that septic. You go on the other side on Main Street at 16, here's the old motel. What's right next to the old motel are these 3 cabins. These 3 cabins were hauled in on wheels in the last couple of months. In checking with the Planning and Zoning Commission, there was no building permit. There has been no permit at all with regard to conditional use permit. They're advertising 6 people per cabin. That's an additional 18 people. You look at the overhead. Up here in the upper left, you see the gas light. I don't have an issue with the gas light, but you can see where their septic bed is, right up on the top of the hill, 110 feet from an open stream down to the lower right. That's one thing I learned. There's an active stream that actually runs underground through their parking lot. You move over to the right-hand side. That's where you have the cabins and motel that are set up for 400 gallons that are advertising capacity that would require 6,800 gallons. The small grassy area that you see just above the 13, that is where they believe, the staff believes, their septic system is. Again, it's 100 feet away from an active stream just across the road. My challenge to anybody is to show me where on that aerial you can fit 6,800 gallons worth of septic capacity when you take a look at what you need for the 4,000 gallons a day over in Gaslight. And I would like to just quickly read. I would like to just quickly read a statement that the Journal had, and it said, this was from the first reading that we had the first time we were here. It said, Commissioners express sympathy.
Sir, hold on a sec. I'll give you just that, if that's okay, and then
That's fine.
we'll move on.
Okay.
So, thank you.
But it says, Commissioners expressed sympathy to the residents' concerns, but said that any future development of, for instance, a septic system would be closely regulated by the county and the State Department of Environmental and Natural Resources. And I will say, based on my due diligence, when you take a look at the numbers, the oversight and the regulations have not been there. I ask for your help, at DENR's help, to sort through this, but because of that and because of the tremendous amount of issues we have here, I encourage you to oppose and vote no with this rezone.
Thank you, Mr. Lon. Do we have anyone else that would like their 3 minutes on this? Okay. Did you sign a speaker request? What's your name again?
My name is Bill Hearn.
Sorry, Bill. I don't know why I had lost that, but Mr. Hearn, 3 minutes, please.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
You know, the zoning that's ahead of you right now, you know, will deal with the septic volume that's put in. And, you know, Ron kind of showed that the current operations that are there that are putting in septic, it appears that they are putting in orders of magnitude larger than what they're permitted for. And at some point, that'll probably get addressed. But, you know, it's the septic volume, nitrate volume in total that's going to impact our water. And the current zoning operation will just be one additional aspect of that. And, you know, I've scoured the internet looking for septic solutions when the underlying geology is not suitable for handling nitrates. I cannot find a single study anywhere in the country that indicates that there is any septic solution if the underlying geology is not favorable to nitrate filtration. And that's what we have here. You know, he showed very clearly if you move just a little bit to the east, the nitrate levels drop dramatically because they are in sandstone and limestone. You come across just, in some cases, a couple of 100 yards, and it fails and does not work well. So if you approve this zoning request and subsequently we find that there's a lot of, input into the ground area, you're kind of asking the staff to find a solution that does not exist. There is no septic solution that will handle, the water. And if you, test, say 10 feet below the septic system, you're going to find really high nitrate levels. I mean, I can't find any study that doesn't say that when the geology is unfavorable. The only way you can control this is control the input, and that's via zoning, and control the amount of nitrates that are put in at the surface. So, I was hoping we'd have an all-win solution to this. I think if we go down this road of more development of the area, we're going to have an all-lose solution. And, myself and the neighbors, we've started a very strict protocol of water testing so we can start to document what I'm afraid is going to be the cause and effect that we're going to see as this goes forward if we get the higher nitrate level input. So that's my comments.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Did I miss anybody who wanted their 3 minutes? If not, board, do we have discussion or a motion?
Madam Chair,
Commissioner DeSanto.
once again, I'm gonna oppose this. But I also want to assure the folks that have come up here and to have these concerns that, when these folks do come and apply for their building permits, that starts a whole new, I guess, I would say, investigative process to make sure that they can qualify. And if all of these facts that you guys have presented hold true, then DNR isn't going to approve it anyway. So I guess that might give you guys a little bit of comfort, but like I said, I don't think that this should move forward, but I don't think that my one vote's going to do the trick.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Roskinick.
I'm just looking at what could happen and what probably would happen if it's rezoned to low-density residential. And I think we've all agreed that that could probably be replatted in the 6 home sites. So if we got 6 home sites, and assuming they're going to each have their own septic and their own well, so we don't eliminate the problem by rezoning to low density. Now, if it goes to commercial or highway service, we don't know what's going to happen. It could just be a 2,000 square foot convenience store. And now you get 1 septic and 1 well. So I have a hard time without knowing for sure if it was zone highway service. We don't know what that's going to be yet. And with that being said, I got, and looking at the alternative, low density residential, we can probably assume that's going to be 6 home sites. That's why the first meeting, I supported the rezone, and my position has remained unchanged.
We have motion or more discussion?
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Drews.
I'd make a motion that we give approval to second reading and rezone of the Borglum Historical Center, Inc.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Roskinick is a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed?
Aye.
So we have 3 ayes and 2 noes. Motion carries. Item D, please. We do have a speaker request on item D. Thank you, folks. Ms. Brittany, this is the road naming firm and Ross Johnson.
Yes, Brittany Molitor, Environmental Planning Supervisor. This is a proposed road name of Providence Way. As you can see on the map above, that area in red is the area of the section line right-of-way that has been improved that is part of this request. This was routed through the interdepartmental review process, and there were a couple items of note. The County Highway Department didn't have any objection to the naming, but they cautioned that we should not accept jurisdiction of this section line since it was not built to Ordinance 14 standards. The Rapid City GIS Department said the name is good. However, there are two existing structures that will need readdressing off of South Highway 79 to Providence Way. The Rapid City Community Development, this property, because it abuts city property, this request for Providence Way will have to go in front of the Rapid City Council also for approval. The emergency services did also comment that the two addresses were going to change. It does meet all of our ordinance requirements and all of our policy requirements. 911 did approve this name, and the Planning Commission did recommend approval. However, there are property owners that have contacted us that are in disagreement with the road name change, and I believe that they are in the audience. But I just wanted to make you aware that that was brought up during our review of this road name. So the recommendation from Planning Commission is for approval.
Thank you. We do have the applicant next, if they'd like to speak on this. Verner Ross Johnson. And then we have a speaker request from Dan Hollinsworth afterwards. And your name, ma'am?
Vern Johnson.
Thank you. Speak into the speaker if you would, ma'am.
Vern Johnson. I guess one question I would have is that my understanding is the county road was built up to standard by Mr. Hollinsworth when he developed his area there, his business. So that maybe needs to be corrected, because we understand that is, we are building a house on 500 plus acres for future proposal of future development in this area. Right now it'll be just one house, but we have no address. And that being a section line right of way, which will extend probably to a dead end, possibly. It's wetland area. It'll extend to the right, which will extend further out into the 500 plus another 200 acres, over 1,000 acres of property that will be eventually developed, which will promote further roads and everything. So, and we will go through the process of developing right now. We are working with an engineer, and as you all know, it takes time, to put everything together. So this is where we just start right now with this first house here in this area.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Any questions for Ms. Johnson? Thank you, ma'am. Dan Hollinsworth.
Morning, Dan Holsworth. I am the business that is located there. We built there 4 years ago. Call it old timers disease, sometimers disease. I did sign that I had no objection to the naming of the road, not realizing at that time that it would change our address specifically. My fault on that aspect of it. It's taken us 4 years just to get established from our old address to the new address, and then with all of our vendors, all of our business contacts, everything else, by changing it from South Highway 79, which was named that way from the county standpoint when we first built on the property, would be a horrible experience for us to go back through for another 4 years of readdressing all of our vendors and accounts and addressing. In my opinion on it, I would love to see it stay at the South Highway 79. Vernon Ross, I have no problem with the development or with what they're proposing. They have built an approach down past where my building is. When Heine was the county superintendent at that time, had me put a larger gate in on the side of my building for a dog leg for a turnaround before Vernon Ross put an approach in going into their land, which would make a circumstance for emergency vehicles and so on and so forth. So in my opinion, for the short distance where that dog leg is coming off of Highway 79 there, of course, the way we're addressed, I would like that to stay South Highway 79 coming down to their approach. And then I assume that their name would start where their approach is going into their land, where they're going to build their structure and home at from that positioning. So in my opinion, I definitely would need it to stay and would like it to stay. Our address at the 6555 South Highway 79. I know also when we built and at the time of it being where the city landfill adjoins that road coming off right by the dog leg, and then Fern and Ross having their land join it, Heine didn't see a reason for any development farther on the road other than 2 county spec, which I built that road to, and approved to by county. He said if any development occurred after that, then there would be a positioning of possibly having to hard surface that road coming in, and then for the approach for any above and beyond activity. I don't know if that's something that's going to have to be an addressment also on that in the future here. But number one at this presence is definitely the addressing issue, and I definitely don't want ours to change if that may be approved or accepted. So I thank you for your time, and if any questions, I'm open.
Questions for Mr. Holsworth? Sorry.
Madam Chair. Dan, is your building the one that we can see the white roof?
Correct.
Is that what? Okay.
Correct. And with it, with our address, you know, like I say, from 911 purposes and from day one is what was addressed at the 6555 South Highway 79. So that's where we've been, and you know, we've stuck over $1 million into the property, and everything we've got addressed to it is huge on that aspect of it.
So Dan, sorry, did you have a follow-up, sir? So Dan, it goes, so they're naming the red part right in front of your house Providence Way.
Pardon?
Is that what's happening?
Right, they're proposing Providence Way to go from 79 all the way in.
All the
where
way,
the front
meaning-
entrance of ours, as soon as you make that dog leg and come in,
yep,
comes right into the triangle right to the front of my building, which would be on that north side. Then as you come back to the end of the building, on the south end of it is where you turn into my side service gate on the back of the building. And then their approach is just about to the end of my building that they have put in to access their property.
where the bright green line is that their approach going, I don't know which way that is. Is the green part
Yep,
them?
that's just about where their approach is at, that they have coming into their property.
Okay.
It's just past that, because the city landfill, of course, has the 160 acres from the green that way then.
Okay.
Okay.
Speak into the mic.
Is it like right in here?
Yep.
Right in there.
Oh, perfect, thank you.
So
So
is-
she shows where that approach is. The green line is where the landfill is, the 160 acres that they bought from the Johnsons a lot of years ago. And so they have that proposal there, so
Thank you, Dan. I just have a few questions for Miss Johnson.
thank you.
Thank you, Dan. So, Ms. Johnson, am I confused? Okay, so your land is past Hollingsworth?
Our land is from section 30 all the way south, and then it goes to the west.
Okay.
That's the 1,000+ acres.
And how many landowners would be changing their address besides Mr. Hollingsworth?
This is we have to have a name of a road.
Yes.
We have to have it. If you look at the red line that goes all the way south, that's where I was talking about, that it goes into a wetland. So we're looking at taking that whole road, Providence Road, all the way south. And as development goes to the west, it'll branch out whatever the engineer, designs around the wetlands for access to going to the west proportion of the property.
So it's, at this time, it's called South Highway.
We don't have an address. All we go by is plat description, legal description.
So you don't have an address on there right now?
Correct,
Just
that's
Mr.
why we've
Hollingsworth?
asked to name that road. My understanding with Mr. Holsworth, where he starts off from 79, he's got his mailbox there, and I understand and I agree with him completely. There's like 6 businesses on Campbell Street that also approach from a side road like that, and they still contain the Campbell address. There's roads off to the side. So with this road here, we need a road, we need a name, so I understand and I sympathize with him, but when we do our development, we have to have a road, we have to start with a name and move forward.
Madam Chair.
Just a follow-up if I could, Commissioner. Cody, you had something to fill in?
Cody, environmental planner. They actually do have a South 79 address. When they apply for their building permit, that's when we address the property. They just haven't received it yet because there's some stuff going on with their septic and their permit, so they actually haven't seen that. I believe it's 65, 67 South Highway 79.
That'd be the Johnsons right now.
That'd be their address for the house that they're applied for a building permit for.
So did anybody have a heartache leaving it South Highway 79 and not changing it, Cody, at that time? I mean, did the highway department or anybody else say, okay, you can't call it after South Highway 79?
For the road name?
Yes.
No, the only comments we really received back was from Ted and from 911 and Ellen from the city that said that if that road name was named, the address of those two properties would change. But it can, so.
What do you mean by that? Say that again. Those two property names would change, why?
Because so right now as it is, it's a driveway.
Right.
That comes down, and a driveway from county, how we name roads is once it accesses 5 or 6 lots,
okay,
then it needs to be named. However, a driveway can access up to that without being named. It's just the driveway as would have the South 79 address, and then they'd have to post at the entrance to it.
So your bottom line is they could name it still South Highway 79. And it wouldn't be illegal or.
As of now, it can be South 79 because it only accesses technically 3 lots, but there's only 2 actual properties that are addressed off of that driveway at this point. Really, we wouldn't come in and look at naming the road unless somebody came in and requested it until there was 5 or 6 lots being accessed.
So in this case, it doesn't have to be named until there's 5 or 6 people.
The county, we wouldn't require it until that point. However, if somebody comes in and wants to request to name a road, it does help 911. According to what Ted said in the past through conversations I've had with him, it does help 911 in the future and now to have an actual name.
So, Ms. Johnson, you understand, and you don't have to redo this, and what the costs it costs for somebody and having a business, knowing that you didn't really have to do that right now. I mean, it might be your choice, but it would affect one of your landowners, which is only you two at this point. So legally, you don't have to change the name South Highway 79 address.
Well, it would either have to be done now or it's going to have to be done later. Because when we build the first house, we're going to build another and another and another.
Okay.
So those addresses are all going to end up having to be changed too. So as normal development goes, when a developer comes in, they name a road. A road is named.
Right.
The problem here is I don't see why Hallsworth would have to change his address at all, given the precedence of all the Campbell Street businesses that have a side road similar to this, if not more extensively, they still maintain their 79 address.
Okay.
And, it creates a problem for us later on, as it does for him at this point.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner DeSanto.
Ms. Johnson, are you planning on building more than 6 homes?
Yes.
Oh, you are? Okay.
We have over 1,000 acres. Yes.
Okay. So is there an issue, as Dan had suggested, with starting the road name at the entrance to your neighborhood rather than that whole road?
I don't have a problem with that because see, as that bottom yellow line there on top of section 30, that's the landfill's property and they have a 79 address. So if you name Providence Way right at that coming south where the development starts, we don't have a problem with that at all.
Cody, can you tell us if there's a problem with that? Or if we can leave the first part South Highway and then when she turns into her development, then it becomes Providence Way.
Sorry, Brittany Molitor again. Just for information, if they do subdivide that property, it will be through the city of Rapid City. So whatever they name and whenever that process goes into place, that it will be through the city's plating jurisdiction.
Okay, so right now we're just doing the part, not where it turns, but just this part.
Right, when they start to develop that property, then it will be done through the city. And then most of the road names and the right-of-ways and things get established through that plating process.
So if I'm correct, we're gonna leave this South Highway 6567 his address and anything right there the same. And then once you go in the city, then you would call that street, when you do your subdivision, if I'm correct, Providence Way.
No, because the first house, we are not going to be in the city. It's going to be on 500 acres. And we're not required to be in the city when it's on over 40 acres.
And Fern, you're not required to change till you get to 5 or 6 houses, changing the name. Does that make sense? And then by
Change
that
the
time,
name, the name of the road, so we would have Highway 79 address.
yes, to start, and then once you took your subdivision and you took it where the green line is up there, then that would be Providence Way. And that would be your platting through the city, if I'm correct. Am I saying this right, Cody and Brittany? I think it's a good solution, Ms. Fern, if we can do that for you and for Mr. Hollingsworth to keep his address, but let's see if I'm correct.
Sorry, Cody Sack, environmental planner again. So through my conversations with Ted, I asked him if that would be acceptable to leave that address as a South 79 address if you name that. His response to me was that the sign would have to be posted at the entrance to the 79. So it'd have to be posted in the DOT right away where it'd say Providence Way and 79. So to make a road that's farther down, I honestly don't know. I've never had that before. I'd have to run that one by.
Say what you mean by further down. On that intersection where that green line is in 79, you couldn't post one that says South Highway 79 and Providence Way?
You would at where the road would intersect 79 and
right
and Providence Way, but then that whole road would be. See what the issue is. I think with the road naming is, if you look at this picture,
right,
you can see where that curves, where his driveway comes off, and
right,
how we address in the county is where your driveway intersects the road.
Right.
So his driveway wouldn't intersect South 79 anymore. It'd intersect Providence Way.
Well, where are you going to put the sign Providence Way then?
So it'd have to be posted in the DOT right away, like where that 29's at, like right where it intersects.
The same place that
Highway any corner really
79 would be. Okay.
Yep.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Cruz.
I would move that we continue this and see if we can't work out the
Second.
issues.
Okay, there's been a continue.
Yeah.
By Drew, second by
Roskinick.
Roskinick. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, motion carries. Sir?
I'm Ross Johnson.
Yes, sir.
I guess looks to me like you're just throwing the can down the road, because eventually somebody's gonna have to address this. And, I sympathize with Dan, but, at some point it's gonna have to be done. Why don't we do it now instead of waiting?
At this point, I think it's easier if we just visit, and I'll set up a meeting visiting both and see if we can find that solution instead of trying to make a bargain here is why we're doing it, sir. Is that okay, sir?
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you
Madam
for your
Chair.
speakers. Commissioner?
There's someone at the city that we need to talk to about this too?
I'll include the city. I'll follow through with this since I know both sides.
Sorry, Cody Sack, environmental planner again. I've been in contact with Brad Salon, and he was going to get something together to go to the city council with the road name, since part of the road does run through the city. So the city's kind of already started the process.
Okay, thank you. I'll get with you, Cody, on that. Item E.
You want to vote?
Oh, I thought we voted.
You had a first and a
Motion by Drew, second by Roskinick. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries.
Madam Chair. We
Commissioner
need to
Roskinick.
set a date if we're going to continue. Or
At least 2 weeks would be fine because they're ready to move forward. So continuance till the next meeting is what, Ms. Holly?
June 4th.
June 4th, okay. Thank you.
Morning, Commissioners. Jason Thennison, Planning Department. Agenda item E is layout plat LPL 1909 to create Lot 1 of Grover subdivision. Applicant is David Grover. He is in the audience if you have any questions for him. Site location is approximately 1.5 miles southeast of Hill City along Old Hill City Road. The applicant is requesting to create proposed Lot 1 of Grover subdivision out of existing Tract A of HES number 303, less Tract Dean, less Tract Drew, and less right-of-way, HES number 303. and a portion of existing GL5, less track Drew of HES number 303, and less right-of-way. Purpose of the subdivision is to create a single-family residence on proposed Lot 1.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'm very familiar with this property, and it totally makes sense to me because it's severed by the Old Hill City Keystone Road. So I'm in favor of the plating process.
Anybody have any discussion or a motion?
Move for approval.
Moved by LaCroy, second by DeSanto. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Item F. Thank you, sir. Ms. Cassie?
Good morning, Cassie Bolstead, Assistant Planning Director. Item I is layout plat 1908 and subdivision regulations variance 1902 for Ryan and Don Loros. The engineer is Fisk Land
E
Surveying.
we just approved.
As this,
Aren't we on F, not I?
Hold on a sec. Item E was motion by LaCroy, second by
Wait, you guys just said we're on to item I. I don't even have an item I.
Item F, honey.
Oh, I heard I.
I heard I too, but
Okay.
okay, I wasn't even paying attention.
Thank you. Yeah. That's okay.
I was like, Kara, okay.
I'm like, I don't have an I.
Item F, sorry.
Okay, so as this property exists today, it is currently 2 lots in the Idlewild Mountain subdivision. Lot 4 is currently 0.86 acres, and Lot 3 is currently 1.29 acres. What they are proposing to do with this is combine these 2 lots to create Lot 4R, Block D of Idlewild Mountain Development, which would be 2.15 acres in its total, and it would contain an existing single-family residence. The subdivision regulations that they are requesting to waive, there are 3 of them. They're requesting to waive any additional easement or road improvements and design standards for suburban residential zoning for Danube Lane, Brenner Pass, and Alpine Drive. They're requesting to allow more than 2 lots to be served by the existing 30-foot wide easement. And they're requesting to allow consolidation of lots on a dead-end road system exceeding the specified road length and number of units. Since what they are proposing does decrease density in this area, staff does not have any issues with those waivers to the subdivision regulations.
Thank you, Cassie.
These 2 were routed through the interdepartmental review process. Nothing of significant concern came back. And they are, like I said, requesting to decrease density in the Idlewild Mountain development by 1 lot. So for the purposes of layout plat, staff does not see any issues with this. I do have 2 recommendations on this, Madam Chair, if I can.
Yes, ma'am.
The first recommendation is for subdivision regulations variance 1902. Staff and the Planning Commission did recommend approval of SV 1902 to waive the 3 requests.
Move for
Ms.
approval.
Cassie. Moved by LaCroy.
Second.
Second by Ross Connect. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
And my second recommendation for that one is for layout plat 1908. Staff and Planning Commission did recommend approval with 8 conditions.
Move for approval.
Moved by LaCroy.
Second?
Second by DeSanto. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Cassie.
Thank you.
Kara, item G.
Oh, I know
Kidding.
that.
I'm just teasing you.
All right, item G is subdivision regulations variance 1903. This is a request to waive plating requirements in order to create lots 1 and 2 of Cosmos subdivision. You have seen this before. The applicants are John and Ann Hovdenis. Fisk Land Surveying, again, is the surveyor. This property, as it exists today, is 17.11 acres. They have received approval, however, from this body. They received it in March of this year to create 2 lots out of this. They are proposing Lot 1 and Lot 2. It's my understanding that they are planning to transfer proposed Lot 2 to the owners of Cosmos Mystery Area for a proposed expansion of their parking. With this request today, they are requesting to waive 4 plating requirements in order to proceed with this plating process. The first is any additional improvements to Cosmos Road. Cosmos Road is currently located within the Cosmos Road District, and a portion of it is actually also on Forest Service lands. So they do have an FLPMA road easement with them. So any sort of standards for Cosmos Road would be something that would have to be done through the road district and through the Forest Service. So staff does not have any issue with that. The second thing that they're requesting to waive is dedication and improvements to the section line right-of-way. Fisk Land Surveying did provide clarification on this. Basically, the right-of-way is not necessary for travel at this point in time. The section line right-of-way is to the east of this property, barely touches what they're trying to do right now. Staff doesn't see an issue with waiving improvements to that right-of-way right now. The third that they're requesting is to reduce the standard 8-foot easement width to 6 feet on one lot line for an existing structure. I do want to explain this one a little bit for you. There is within our subdivision regulations a requirement for dedication of an 8-foot minor drainage and utility easement along all property lines. What they are requesting with this is there is an existing 3-stall garage right here. When it was surveyed, it came out to be 6.1 feet from the property line. That garage was built in like 1979, so it is grandfathered, but with them platting this, it would cause that to encroach into that required 8-foot easement. So they're only requesting to bring that easement down to 6 feet along that one property line right there so that that garage isn't put in violation by this platting. Again, staff doesn't see any sort of issue with that. The utilities and things like that for that structure and for that house are already there. So chances that you'll need an 8-foot easement there are probably slim. And then the last one that they're requesting to waive is percolation test and soil profile hole information. There's already a septic system on proposed lot 1, and if they put one on proposed lot 2, they have to go through that during the permitting process. So staff and the planning commission did recommend approval of subdivision regulations variance 1903 to waive those 4 requirements.
That would be my motion.
Thank you. Hold on just a sec. Commissioner DeSanto, we have a speaker request on item 20G and 20H. Stephen Schultz. Thank you, sir. And your name again, sir.
My name is Stephen Schultz.
Thank you, sir.
I am the president and one of the directors of the Cosmos of the Black Hills. My father started that business in the early 50s, and we've been operating there for 60-plus years. We have no objections to the changes proposed in items G and H, and as mentioned, we do have an interest in securing Lot 2 to ease some of the congestion in our parking lot at a minimum. We may evolve other plans over time to expand our business, but in the short term, it's mostly about parking. Keeps some of the cars from parking on the road.
So you're in favor of this?
We are in favor of this.
Thank you, sir.
And I would have the same comments on item G, but I'll spare you my
G and
my
H,
diatribe.
both?
Yes,
Your
ma'am.
approval. Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, Commissioner DeSanto.
Move for approval of item G.
Second.
Moved by approval. DeSanto motion, second by LaCroix. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Item H.
Thank you. Item H is also for this same property. This is a rezone request 1905 and comprehensive plan amendment 1905. This is a request to rezone 10.89 acres from general agriculture district to limited agriculture district, which would be proposed lot 1, and to rezone 6.22 acres from general agriculture district to general commercial district, which would be proposed lot 2, and then to amend the comprehensive plan to change the future land use from plan unit development sensitive to limited agriculture district and general commercial district. This rezone does fulfill one of the requirements from the platting process that was approved in March. Currently, the surrounding current zoning within a half mile of this property is general agriculture district, which a large portion of that is Forest Service lands, limited agriculture district, and then general commercial district where Cosmos is. And surrounding future land use is a lot of public land, plan unit development sensitive, and then again general commercial district where Cosmos is at. So based on the surrounding zoning and the proposed uses for the property, the applicant's rezone request appears to be in harmony with current zoning and current uses in the surrounding area. So staff and planning commission recommended approval of rezone 1905 and comprehensive plan amendment 1905.
Thank you, Ms. Cassie. Do we have a motion or discussion?
Move approval.
Move approval by Commissioner LaCroy,
Second.
second by Drews. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next is item from commissioners, or from chair and commission members. We do have one, appointment of Black Hills Council of Local Governments Liaison and Alternate.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Drews?
I believe that each entity that's a part of the Black Hills Council of Local Government has a board representative for their meetings. It seems to me, and maybe you know better, I think they meet quarterly on a regular basis. Holly, do you
I want
recall?
to say monthly.
You think it's monthly?
Well, their next meeting's on June 27th.
I'm thinking it's monthly, sir.
Okay.
Okay. But anyway, there's an opportunity for Pennington County to be an actual part of that, of those meetings too.
So just chair and vice chair maybe every year? Anybody have a problem with that? On the Black Hills Council of Local Governments? That way it switches and whoever's in charge, or not in charge.
Madam Chair, I'd think that'd be more appropriate because I think that's how probably the city does it. And so I would think that would be appropriate standard.
Thank you. Commissioner LaCroy, are you okay with that? Ms. Holly and Mr. Drews, you brought this forward as well? Okay.
Can you put it in motion format, please?
Yes, ma'am. Do we have a motion to that effect?
I'd make a motion to appoint the chair as the representative and vice chair as the proxy for the Black Hills Council of Local Governments Board.
Motion by Drews,
Second.
second by LaCroy. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Next, we'll go to committee reports, because I think that's probably where most of us have areas. Commissioner LaCroy?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm sure we each got something to share. We were, Mr. Drews and DeSanto and myself, I went to the Western Interstate Region Conference. And this is probably the first time I think the commission's ever been to one of these NACO conferences. And I have to tell you, I think it was a busy 4 days for us. I mean, we started Tuesday with mobile workshops, and I did the A to Z forestry, and I'll just talk about my part on it, and which was a workshop that we went to the National Forest in Colville National Forest, and we also did a site visit of Vegan Sawmill. And so this was all day deal, and it's quite interesting because they talked about the 20-year forest plan and the industry working with the forestry, and the Vegan Sawmill was, which really surprised me, is for 27 years I worked with some of the byproducts of the forest industry, the sawdust for particle wood and so forth, but I'd never actually been to a sawmill. But the way they explained how they had to reconform to some of the things that were happening nationwide was amazing. I mean, everybody knows bigger trees have the bigger yield for product. While vegan trees decided to do something different and challenging, they knew the thinning of the forest was going to be coming forth, which is smaller sticks, in order to thin the forest so there's less chances of fire and better health for what is there. So they retooled to do smaller trees. And I think that was the interesting part, was that these two worked together with the National Forest and the timber industry to not only stay in business, but also help thin the forest for forest fires and make a healthier forest. There was some of the new groundbreaking agreements that they come up with. They are able to go in and help thin out these brushed areas and do more of that and make it less hazardous for these big fires. But their biggest problem now is the slash piles, finding someone to come in and do the slash piles, but they got creative with that too. You know, one of the things that stuck with my mind on that part was the slash piles. They said, well, instead of charging people for firewood, a permit fee for $5, we say, this is where you can get it, just take it.
Nice.
You know, and as the forester said, it's common sense. We want a gun, they want it. Why would we charge them? That was one of the things. But you know that's going to bring me some good questions for our Black Hills National Forest Service Board. I kind of got put on that last year, and haven't quite gotten up to speed. And this kind of zoomed me up a year in advance. I think this whole mobile workshop and some of the stuff we did. But that was an all-day event on Tuesday. On Wednesday, we did the same thing. It started at 9 in the morning, and we went to 5:30, 6 o'clock that night. I attended the board of directors morning meeting in the morning was from 9 to 12, and then we did the agriculture affairs meeting and mobile workshop. And I'll let Mark talk about that because that was very informative also because it's got some of the most fertile wheat country in the country, and Mark was very informative to both me and Gary and that, and being able to do that as far as the workshops and so forth.
We
But
got our own personal tour guide with Mark.
yeah, we did. I'll let him explain what happened. That was kind of an error on all of our parts. We wanted to go on this tour, and misheard the speaker before the lunch, and we thought so Mark was kind enough to catch us up to the group after that, and it was really good. But that was another all-day thing. And then Thursday, I attended the general session. We did 8:30 to 10. And I'm sure Gary's got a comment on this one. I think that the general session, the speaker was Rob Curley, the editor for the Spokane Review. He was great. He talked about the newspaper industry and how things are changing and what's going on. He was just one of about four, but that's what stuck out in my mind was that one. And also on Thursday, I did the federal agency partner session with the U.S. Department of Interior and Forest with Cynthia Boss. And in the afternoon, I did the strategies for better serving people with mental illness. Now that workshop was, I think me and Gary were both in that one, but that one had to do a lot with our MacArthur. Spokane got the MacArthur grant also, and they were doing some of the same stuff. And so it was kind of interesting to see where they were. One of the biggest things I thought that they were doing different from us. So I had that written down. Community court is what it was called, if I remember right, Gary. Yeah, I do. And we're in our own sense have talked about something like that, trying to deal with low end warrants and so forth, instead of taking people to jail. They're setting up little court systems on certain dates so people can come in and just deal with them instead of having them out there and go through them. That was one of the things that they have actually started and got going. And then we had another meeting that day. Untapped resources for growing county economic development. The biggest thing I got out of that one was they streamlining permits. I mean, which we did a comprehensive plan. The zoning was done, and they were able to approve permits fast. Turn them around real quick was one of their biggest things. They talked about how they're having an Amazon store coming in, or Amazon warehouse distribution center coming in, and electric car company coming in. And one of the ways they dealt with it fastest was they were able to do it within a month. I think you attended that too. So that was some of the things that we went to. It was a busy week. Like I said, 8 to 5 to 6 at night, every night. But one of the best things I think that I got out of this whole conference is not only the classes that they put, but some of the excitement and the conversation that when we come out of these come out of these classes, Mark, Gary, and I, when we come together, the excitement of enthusiasm in like Mark's voice when he come out of one, he says, we can do this. We having a decent talk and collaboration with each other, not on agenda items, but saying, hey, we can do something in this community and sparking conversation and getting it done. And there's a lot of classes that we both, or all three of us went to, but we all heard three different things. So our perspective was different. So that was the best part about this whole conference, I think. It's not only what we learned, but the togetherness and the talks that we had afterwards, I think was priceless for our team. So
Sounds like you have goals, just from listening to you, of how we're moving forward and what those goals are going to be for Pennington County from those classes. So,
yeah.
Commissioner DeSanto?
Well, I'd obviously reflect the same sentiments that Lloyd reflected. There was so much learning going on. We were really fed a lot of information. And I think each one of us, because for most part, we managed to split up, go to different classes, and that way we were able to kind of garner way more information than we would have if we were all going to the same. In a couple of situations, we were in the same classrooms together. But as Lloyd said, it was interesting because when we walked out of the classes, he might have heard something that I didn't really tune into, or Gary, and so we obviously compounded what we learned in those classes as well, even though we were in the same class. Maybe we went into the class with the expectation of learning about something specific, and when they started talking about that specific item, we tuned into it, and maybe the other person that went in had a different thought process on why he was attending the class. So that was pretty neat. Piggybacking on the forest management, Washington State has amazing forest management as well as Idaho. And is it Vaughan?
Vaughan, yeah.
Vaughan Lumber Company is extremely progressive in how they handle their forest products. One of the things that impresses me is what they do with the byproduct of the sawmills and the number of usages that can come from those byproducts. Pellets to heat houses, paper pulp to go south to the Potlatch Mill down in Lewiston, Idaho, which is about 100 miles away. Fuel to fuel the waste-to-energy plant to burn up their refuge instead of burying it. Just really far-reaching, and they continue to experiment with new ways to utilize those forest byproducts. And the one that Lloyd pointed out I thought was fantastic, because we have so much slash around the Black Hills, and opening that up for people to go in. Now, I know that one of the biggest concerns is the spreading pine beetle, but I think that that we also know that there's I guess what would I call it, a shelf life for the pine beetle, and once those slash piles have sat for a certain period of time, there's no worry that we're going to spread anything, because those pine beetles will have died. So hopefully that's something that we can talk to the Forest Service about. As far as the tour that we went, and we missed the bus, and fortunately I had a car there, so Gary and Lloyd and I jumped in the car and chased them down, and
Chased them down.
and caught most of the presentation. That there's a local family that owns a chemical corporation out there that has successfully competed against some of the large conglomerates that in the U.S. and managed to keep the loyalty of those farmers in the Palouse loyal to them instead of going outside. And he was the owner. I believe he's a second or third generation of McGregor, was doing the talk about the Palouse. The Palouse produces, it's a dryland farming, and it produces more wheat per acre than any other place on the entire planet. It's just amazing. And when you go there now, they've been getting so much rain that their winter wheat is already, what would you guys say, 8 inches, 11 inches tall. Normally, by this time of the year, it's probably more like 3. So, and one of the interesting things that gives the Palouse its uniqueness in the ability is that it's got 10 feet of topsoil on top of about 15 foot of lava, volcanic ash. And that volcanic ash serves as a sponge, retains the water that seeps down through the soil. And then in the summertime, they only need 1 or 2 rains to keep their crops in good shape, because the water has been held in retention in that volcanic ash, and it gets drawn up through the soil to feed the crops. It's really quite amazing, and their farming techniques have become very progressive as well. No-till, so that they create less erosion. Just some really amazing farms. Oh yeah. One of the things that I pointed out to the guys is that there are no fences there anymore. The fences have all been removed over the past 100 years, and you can look as far as the eye can see, and you might see a post, but the fences are pretty much
They have cattle or horses there?
eliminated. There's a few cattle operations, but they're closer up to the Idaho side. So the fences start over on the Idaho side. But where we were literally 6.5 miles from Idaho. Is where we were looking. So, yeah, amazing things to look at. Another thing that I don't think we got to see one of them, but during harvest, the combines out there are called leveling combines, because the whole area is basically volcanic dunes, and so it's very hilly. And these combines are on hills like this. And so at the highest, the maximum point when you have the leveling combine, you're literally sitting 25 feet off of the ground in that combine, because it's tipped up like that with the wheels down below it to hold on that level. It's pretty amazing. So, and you really got to know how to turn those things around without tipping them over.
That's crazy.
And then, of course, I attended multiple classes. I did not. I thought I attached my notes to my packet this morning, and I must have attached them to some other paperwork because I didn't bring with me. But one of the things that I got very excited about was, and you guys have heard me talk about it before, so you get to hear me talk about it again, is bicycle paths. And I went to a seminar on how those can be basically built in conjunction with Bureau of Land Management. And Bureau of Land Management has a lot of figures on what kind of economic impact that these bicycle trails have created for the counties and the communities that they've been put in. Spokane has a bicycle trail, paved bicycle trail. It's 8 feet wide, that goes from Spokane all the way to Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. And I think it's a 29-mile bike path. So that's used, well, these guys walked some of it and saw how many people are out there, even though it was raining. So that's something I'm going to be following up on and looking at. I also went to a very informative seminar on veterans benefits that are not being fully used. And so that will help me when I'm running into veterans that are asking me, how do I get these benefits? I'm running short on rent, that kind of stuff. These are some more ideas of how that they can obtain these benefits that they need, so that they can survive and thrive, as opposed to just barely get by. So I'll pass it on to Gary.
Want me to go next?
Go ahead, and then we'll do Ron if that's okay.
I'm not going to repeat what Lloyd and Mark had to say, but this Western Region Conference is the 15 Western states of the National Association of County Commissioners. And the things that they try to do is talk about a lot of common issues that we all share, whether we're located here or Washington or California, but issues that impact counties. From this, I mean, there's several more contacts that I want to make now that would back in South Dakota, making contact with the USDA rural development people, finding out what programs they have that may be impacted in Pennington County. We spent quite a bit of time talking about affordable housing and how that may work, especially in the rural areas of like Keystone and Hill City. So there's people that we learned about there that we need to make contact with in South Dakota too. One of the areas that Lloyd talked about was the mental illness. And obviously, that we're not alone in dealing with those issues. With our care campus, though, we discovered that we are ahead of most of the areas in that regard. I think it'd be interesting in the future for somebody from Pennington County to be able to make a presentation of them as to where we're actually at. And we probably don't have enough data at this point in time to do that. But I think it would be very impressive as to where this has come from and where it's going. So there was just a whole lot of different partnerships that have been created because of this through state and local and federal government agencies that we need to continue to pursue. And so, I was excited to be there. I think it was a great conference for all of us. It was a great learning and getting some of that initial exposure, getting us pretty excited about following up on with others and relative to what it can mean for us in our county.
Thank you, Gary. Ron Roskinek, Commissioner.
Well, mine's going to be pretty boring compared to you three.
You don't want to hear what we have to say, do you?
I attended my second fire board meeting at the Hill City Volunteer Fire Department. Introduced myself to a lot of folks that I didn't know, and then I saw a lot of folks that I did know. Some of the dialogue pertained to when these volunteer fire departments go out on fires, how they're reimbursed by the federal government and the state government, which is all foreign to me, but I'm learning. And these fire departments, they have a lot of needs, and one of the common denominators seem to be radios and maintaining towers. It's all pretty expensive. Let's see.
Fair board.
Then Deb and I attended the Central States Fair Board of Directors meeting in Deadwood last week. We got introduced to some of the members of the board. Some of the topics there were talked a little bit about the stalling barn, and that's moving along, and we kind of set some cost parameters. The guest speaker last Friday was Denny Baker. He was the past president of the Minnesota State Fair, which was interesting. It's magnitude-wise, it's a lot bigger than our Central States Fair, but he brought, we spent pretty much a half a day with him and went over a lot of the dynamics that the Minnesota State Fair shares with our county fair here. Then we had a entertainment night, and then it was quite fun. I think Deb did quite well. Not better than me. The next day we got down to business, and we met with the Civic Center board, and they showed us diagrams how the Civic Center is progressing and how that's going to lay out, and how that layout will accommodate the annual stock show. I saw some design problems. Probably the biggest one is the amount of room that these semis can go in. Right now, during the stock show, these semis, when we build that new Civic Center, we're going to lose a lot of parking. And so they've got parking plans, but with regards to the stock show, these semis will, at this point in time, unless they do some design work on the site, they're going to have to pull in and back up a considerable distance. So evidently they're working on that to get that worked out, but there again, that's going to cost money, and I got a feeling that money will probably go more towards the Civic Center itself than the site improvements. Lastly, I talked to Shannon with the DOE, and I asked him if he could give me an update on the modifications to our assessment notices. As I said, IT has got it worked out where we can have a couple spaces on that assessment notice that we can make it more transparent to the taxpayers that there's a benefit to being owner occupied. Shannon's going to put some wording in that. Once we get that wording nailed down, then by the time they go out next March, we will have, to me, made a great improvement in how we, in the method that we use for sending out our assessed value notices. Other than that, that's pretty much it.
That's it?
I can start making stuff up.
Well, the trip sounds like, and the conference sounds like it was very inspirational, which is good for us to bring back stuff and how we can implement it in Pennington County. I know me and Lloyd have been before on National League of Cities, and that inspired us many times to bring back different things that they do in different cities, let alone now in counties. People don't think sometimes that's beneficial. You can just go online and learn these things, but it's not the same. Those connections you make and those people you learn through those connections help you get this stuff through and make it a lot easier to implement it when you have a team or other people helping you, even from other states. So it makes a huge difference. But I went to the Central States Fair Conference too and enjoyed it because of they were looking at a mission statement. Jason Solomon did really well at making us smile a lot for one thing, and the other is just bringing forth a mission statement for Central States Fair, which they've been working on for a while. I also, they talked about the economic impact study, which is huge for the Central States Fair in order to move forward on grants and different things that they need to show people what impact the Central States Fair has around here for sales tax and what it does for Rapid City and the surrounding areas. So I thought that was pretty exciting. And then talked to Quinn Neff from Keystone, and he'd like to meet with me and Commissioner Drews and see if we can build some relationships there and maybe have a tour there of what they're doing. And then Commissioner Drews and I hopefully are moving forward with going to different cities and using some of this information from the conference and otherwise that this team could help these different cities with, and then bring back that information we learned from the different cities and see if anybody would like to team up or help the surrounding areas and different things either that they learned or are interested in. So we are moving forward with that as well. And the other cities so far have been very instrumental in going, wow, we really think that'd be awesome if you did that. So just doing a couple different things this year. And I think that's about it.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner LaCroix.
I'd like to thank Ron and you both for filling in for Gary and I as we're gone. I think that just goes to show the teamwork that we have up here that, you know, especially this fair board's embraced having pretty much two equal board members on there, and then us being gone took you guys on, and that shows that we have a lot of cooperation in our county government part. So I think I really appreciate you guys stepping up and jumping into that.
Well, I think this year we've accomplished a lot of goals and stuff, even in the last 6 months of changing a few things with every teammate on here, not just in certain individuals. It's all of us that have been going in different areas and figuring out what we can do and then supporting each other in that. And that's been huge. I mean, it's huge because you do all that work and you need that extra support. So I like to thank this team for that. It's made my job a lot easier when I'm supporting things or doing things as well, because we all know we're doing our homework. So,
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Roskinek.
Yeah, that was interesting, working on the modified mission statement for the Fair Foundation. somebody said, well, what is your mission statement? And they finally found it, and it's like a paragraph. And then Butch Sarah's sitting next to me, and he says, well, Black Hills Energy, our mission statement is improving life with energy. And I thought, well, how about we improving life with agriculture? But
So
that
he
would be
cheated.
too short. So we threw in agritourism, community, and I believe tourism.
Agritourism and something involving community.
Community.
I had to leave, but Ron, what he's saying is he cheated. So we were thinking of something, so he's much told him basically what he thought, Black Hills Energy was. So he goes, well, this is easy. We just copy yours, and he just told him it's, building relationships with agritourism. And everybody's like, Ron.
The networking, that was just great because we had a couple city council people there, and I really got to know Jason a little bit better and Amanda. And the networking is invaluable because we're going to have to do that during the term of the commission. So,
And it's funny because you find that through even the committees we're on or the conferences, it's the same, except you get a bigger experience at the conferences because there's more things that those, different counties do than what we do. And it's huge. I don't know, people, to me, if people don't understand that, they need to try it once and they'll totally understand what that means. It's not getting it offline. We can read about it, but actually implementing and seeing it, it's easier to implement it. So,
Madam
good
Chair.
job, guys. Commissioner DeSanto.
Just before, Lloyd has one more committee to talk about, but I wanted to point out that if you ever travel with Lloyd and you decide to make him the navigator, I will guarantee you that he will find the most interesting route to get where you are going.
So you had some traveling experiences together? You had some bonding while you were traveling, Lloyd?
We did discover there are dirt roads in Washington.
Surrey's the one that gave me no kidding on that. That was bad.
Well, you go
If
with
it
my...
would have rained, you would not have seen us. You would not have seen us.
Well, you have to travel with my husband because he took us from one state to the other on his little Siri thing, and we were away like 4 hours out of the way, Lloyd. So you're probably doing a lot better
We'd
than
still
he
be
was.
walking if it would have started raining hard. I'll tell you that right.
Awesome.
We did have one, Mark and I attended the advisory committee for public defenders yesterday at 11. And I tell you, that was probably I've been on that for the last 3 years, one of the best meetings I've had in a long time. We had some great conversations. We had Randy Conley and John there, but the depth of the questions were intense. What we were going over was the budget, number one, for the public defender's office, but an alternative and some other stuff that we're going to end up having another meeting before I'd rather say anything about what's happening there because we need to figure that out between that group. But I mean, there's a great conversation too. I mean, it actually went for almost 2 hours, I think. And so,
Nice.
but there'll probably be some things coming from the public defender's office that will make the commissioners aware of, but it's been carefully thought out and talked about.
Thank you, commissioners. Next, we have on the agenda approval of the vouchers. You have a motion, please.
Motion to approve.
Approved by Ross Connect,
Second.
second by Drews. Any
Madam Chair.
discussion? Yes, sir.
I would like to announce that the bills this month added up to $5,459,642.20.
Thank you, Commissioner DeSanto. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Items from public. I see we have a special man in the back. Lindell Peterson, Commissioner Lindell Peterson. Sir, would you like to come up and say a few words today, or you miss us? You're feeling some love today?
I
Anything
would like
that?
to say something, please.
Yes, sir.
Lindell Peterson, congratulations on being nominated for South Dakota Hall of Fame. I'm very proud of you and what you've done to our community, and I am going to do my best to be there to support you.
Congratulations, Lindell.
Thank you,
Madam Chair.
Lloyd, for announcing that, sir.
I would also like to thank Lindell for sitting in and voting on our new extension advisory or advisor. They have chosen one, however, because I left my notes. Lindell, do you have a name for us or? Okay, so at the next meeting, I will announce our new advisor for the 4-H, but Lindell helped out a lot. I thought he had more to offer as far as understanding what they were looking for, and so I asked Lindell to participate in that interview process, and I appreciate greatly you showing up and doing that.
Well, thank you, public. You did well. Sorry. Dan, did you have anything you wanted to share, sir? Yes, sir. We're doing good.
Thank you all. I was from Lloyd when I seen Lindell today, say the same thing. That was a very proud moment to see all the commitment, all the years that you put forth, public service, county extension. Couldn't be prouder. And still upright and going hard. That's the fun part.
Dan, now
So,
be kind.
and I have to say, since the election, I've watched the commissioners very closely. They've always been close and deep to my heart anyway. You guys have turned into a well-oiled machine and really working well together. I mean, I am impressed. Everybody is really doing a great job. So, and it's a thankless job. I know Ron's made a comment, man, I didn't think there was going to be this much work involved in it. There is a lot of commitment. So I'm very proud of you guys and for what you do and what you've given to the community. So,
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Dan.
My other big thing is, I don't know if you've seen in the Rapid City Journal, the Deerfield Lake issue with that trying to be turned from a no-wake lake to a motorized lake with a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit on it. What a heartbreaker. I'm wanting to get all the support we can from everybody to not let that happen. We have a June 6th meeting in Pier that I will be at. I know Kevin Tom is in support of it. Several of the highway people are going to voice their opinion. There is a link, was mentioned in Rapid City Journal. I don't have that with me for all the public input, but I would like the support from everybody and pass the word. It's one of the few sportsman hiking, kayaking, canoeing lakes in the hills that can be enjoyed. It isn't because we have Mountain Meadow that I'm here on the soapbox. It's because it is a beautiful area that we don't want destroyed for the public. So being in our area, it's very huge that we keep it as it is. So I would appreciate all your support and comments that you can get from anybody to put out there to, just like what we did the South Rochford Road, we want to pack the house at Pier with input, not so much bodies, to let them know we don't want it. So
Dan, thank you so much for mentioning that. That completely slipped my mind, but I was going to mention it.
well, and I know
I do
how
not
much
want
you're
to see
involved.
motorized boats on.
No, and I know what you're involved with the youth and how much you care about hunting, fishing, and the board. And so it's huge on that part of it. So I thank you all and appreciate the job you guys are doing.
Anyhow, Dan, the last time I was at Deerfield with a boat, it was a canoe. And canoes and kayaks just don't go with, when they say 25 miles an hour, we talked about this. How do you know? They're going 25 or 35 and 25 miles an hour on a boat, especially some of these 21-foot luns, they'll create a wake. And it's like mixing oil and water. The two just don't mix. So I'm personally in favor of keeping Deerfield just the way it is, a nice pristine mountain lake that campers and hikers and we can go there to get away from what we see at Sheridan Lake, Angostura, and Pactola.
Yeah.
So, guys, we can put this on an agenda.
Well, we should. I can tell you.
Holly, are we okay putting it on?
Dan, what date
Can't
did
make
you
a
say
motion
the
or anything
hearing
to it, but
I believe it's June 6th is when a meeting in Pier is.
The next meeting is June 4th, so we could bring a statement of support at the June 4th
if that's
meeting.
okay with the board?
If the board would like
Okay.
us to do that.
Yep.
Let's
And
do
I'd be
that.
proud to carry it if that's the case with me going.
We'll put that on June 4th. I know we're not supposed to make comment during public comment, but
We'll take action at the next meeting.
yes, no action, just, yeah, okay.
Yep, and I think, you know, when it was originally built, it was built for Sportsman's Lake, to keep it a trout lake, to keep it something that is of that unusual aspect. And that's the beauty of it. So
Okay,
you're
so
100% on key, guys
next meeting and then
and
get
girls.
people here to support it, and looks like we want to put it on our agenda, sir.
Like it. Thank you all.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Dan.
Thanks, Dan.
We have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Drews, second by LaCroy. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.